I still remember the look on their faces when I first told them about my online business idea. My parents laughed, literally laughed, right in front of me. They always favored my perfect sister Amanda, who was about to graduate from a prestigious medical school. While they mocked my dreams, I silently built my empire, reaching $1.2 million in revenue. I was saving that little secret for her graduation party. Let me tell you how it all went down. Before I begin, drop a like. If your family ever underestimated you, subscribe and tell me where you are watching from. Growing up in a traditional American household in the suburbs of Chicago, I always knew I was different. My name is Aurelius, and at 32 years old, I have always been fascinated with technology and the internet. While other kids were playing sports or joining debate clubs, I was taking apart computers and building websites in my bedroom. My father, Thomas, a renowned cardiologist at Northwestern Memorial, and my mother, Julia, a corporate attorney at a prestigious law firm downtown, had very specific ideas about success. In their world, you went to an Ivy League school, got a respectable degree in medicine or law, and followed their footsteps into a stable, prestigious career. Then there was my sister Amanda, 3 years younger than me. Amanda was everything my parents wanted in a child. She was beautiful with her perfect blonde hair and bright blue eyes, always at the top of her class, captain of the debate team, and volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends. She was the golden child who never questioned our parents' expectations. While I struggled to fit into their mold, Amanda embraced it wholeheartedly. During my sophomore year at University of Illinois, studying computer engineering, I began to see the massive potential of online businesses. This was back in 2012, when digital entrepreneurship was starting to take off, but was still considered risky and unproven by most traditional thinkers. I spent countless nights researching successful online businesses, learning about digital marketing, user experience design, and e-commerce platforms. My first real attempt at launching a business came during spring break of my junior year. I created a website that would connect college students with side gig opportunities, something I genuinely believed could solve a real problem. I had spent months building the platform, learning to code better, and developing a business model that I thought could actually work. The platform had a clean, intuitive interface that made it easy for students to create profiles, highlighting their skills from graphic design to tutoring to odd jobs. Local businesses could post opportunities, and my system would match them with qualified students. I called it Grad Grind, a name I thought was clever at the time. The night I finally decided to share my vision with my parents was during our monthly family dinner. Amanda had just been accepted into Northwestern Medical School, following in our father's footsteps, and the entire evening had been dedicated to celebrating her accomplishment. After the champagne toast to Amanda's future as a doctor, I saw my opportunity to share my own news. I carefully explained my business concept, walking them through the marketplace model, showing them mock-ups on my laptop, and enthusiastically describing the problem it solved for both students and local businesses. I even had early sign-ups from several campus organizations and local shops willing to participate in the beta test. My voice was filled with passion as I detailed my plan to scale the platform to other universities after proving the concept at Illinois. As I talked, I could feel that familiar spark of entrepreneurial excitement that had kept me working late into the night for months. Despite having faced several technical challenges and having to restart parts of the coding multiple times, I remained optimistic. I had conducted surveys with potential users, iterated on the design based on feedback, and was genuinely convinced that this platform could make a difference, while also becoming a viable business. I even shared some early failures with them, believing that showing my learning process would help them see my growth and commitment. I explained how my first attempt at a social media plugin had failed miserably, but how that failure taught me valuable lessons about user privacy and interface design that I had applied to GradGrind. In my mind, these were not just setbacks but stepping stones toward eventual success. The silence that followed my presentation was deafening. My father looked at my mother, and then both of them burst into laughter. Not the supportive kind, but the dismissive kind that makes your stomach sink. Dad put down his wine glass and said, "You know, Aurelius, your friend Patrick just got accepted to law school at Columbia. and Michael's son just landed a job at Goldman Sachs. Have you considered applying for internships at some tech companies? At least that would give you some real-world experience. This internet hobby is cute, but it is not a career. My mother nodded in agreement, adding, "Honey, we just want you to be realistic. Do you know how many of these internet startups fail? 99%. Why not follow a proven path like your sister?" Despite their reaction, I continued working on grad grind between classes and on weekends. The first few months were tough, with technical issues, low user engagement, and difficulties convincing businesses to pay for premium features. Still, I managed to get a small but growing user base at the university. At the next family dinner 3 months later, Amanda dominated the conversation with stories about her first semester at medical school. When I finally found a moment to share that GradGrind had reached 500 active users and generated its first revenue, about $600 from premium business subscriptions, my father nearly choked on his food. "Well, $600. That should cover what, maybe one textbook for next semester," he chuckled. "Amanda makes more than that in a weekend working part-time at the research lab." I could feel my face burning with embarrassment. My mother quickly changed the subject, asking Amanda about some professor they both knew from the hospital fundraising committee. What hurt the most was how my parents would talk about my business venture with relatives and family friends. During Thanksgiving dinner that year, I overheard my father telling my uncle Aurelius is still playing with his little website. "We are hoping it is just a phase. You know how kids are these days with their apps and internet things." These dismissive comments planted seeds of doubt in my mind. Was I really just wasting my time? Should I give up and follow the path my parents had always envisioned for me? The constant comparison to Amanda and her traditional success made me feel increasingly isolated within my own family. The breaking point came during winter break of my senior year. My father cornered me in his study one evening, a space traditionally reserved for serious family discussions. "Son," he said, his voice stern, but with an undertone of what he probably thought was compassion, "it is time to stop this internet game and get serious about your future. Your mother and I have been patient, but you are about to graduate. We would be willing to help you apply to law school or even medical school if you still want to catch up to your sister. But this startup fantasy has to end." I tried to explain that GradGrind was showing real promise, that I had secured a small investment from a professor who believed in the concept, but he cut me off. "Enough," he thundered. "You have always been stubborn, always wanting to go your own way. Look where it has gotten you. While Amanda is excelling, you are chasing pipe dreams. You either get serious about a real career, or you are on your own after graduation. We will not support this foolishness anymore." That night I made a decision that would change the course of my life. I would move out immediately after graduation, find the cheapest apartment I could afford, and pour everything I had into making my business succeed, not just to prove my parents wrong, but to prove myself right. After graduation, I found a tiny studio apartment in a less desirable part of Chicago. The place was barely 500 square feet, with pipes that clanged at night and neighbors who argued too loudly, but the rent was cheap enough that I could stretch my savings while working on the business. I sold my car, started using public transportation, and cut my expenses to the absolute minimum. Every month, I would try to call home, hoping to maintain some connection with my family. The conversations were always the same. My parents would give a quick update about their lives, spend 20 minutes detailing Amanda's latest achievements, and then rush off the phone when I tried to talk about my business progress. After spending nearly a year refining GradGrind, I decided to pivot the business. The college gig marketplace was growing slowly, but the margins were too thin. Using the skills and insights I had gained, I launched a new platform focused on specialized online courses for coding and digital marketing, something with higher margins and scalability potential. I called it CodeCraft, and poured all my remaining savings into development and digital marketing. 3 months and disaster struck. A major competitor launched a nearly identical platform with massive venture capital backing. My user acquisition dried up overnight, and my bank account dwindled to dangerous levels. I was one missed rent payment away from eviction and had to take on freelance web development work just to keep the lights on. During this low point, my phone rang one evening. It was my mother, but not to check on my well-being. I can still remember her exact words. Aurelius, we wanted you to hear it from us first. Amanda has been selected for the prestigious Langford Surgical Fellowship. Only 2 students in the country were chosen. We are having a small celebration dinner on Saturday. You are welcome to come, of course, if you are not too busy with your internet thing. Not once did she ask how I was doing, if I was eating well, or if I needed any help. I muttered congratulations and made an excuse about a project deadline. 2 weeks later, I forced myself to attend a family gathering, hoping to reconnect and maybe even gain some emotional support during what was clearly a difficult time for me. Instead, I walked into a strategic intervention. My parents had invited Amanda, of course, along with several family friends whose children had successful traditional careers. Over dinner, my father made an announcement that still makes my blood boil when I think about it. "Your mother and I have been talking," he said, looking directly at me. "We know things have been difficult since you graduated." He paused dramatically. "We would like to offer to pay your tuition if you would consider applying to medical school or law school. It is not too late to get back on track. Amanda has graciously offered to help you study for the entrance exams." I looked at Amanda, who wore an expression of practiced sympathy mixed with unmistakable superiority. She reached across the table to pat my hand. "It is really not as hard as everyone makes it out to be, bro," she said condescendingly. "I could definitely help you with the biology sections. You always were good at memorizing things." When I politely declined their offer, explaining that I was committed to my business and was making progress despite setbacks, my father lost his temper. "You will never succeed with that internet nonsense," he shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "When are you going to grow up and accept reality? Not everyone gets to follow their dreams, Aurelius. Most of us have to be practical and responsible." My mother jumped in her voice, dripping with disappointment. "Why cannot you be more like your sister? She understood what it takes to succeed in this world. She listened to our advice, and look at her now. Why do you insist on learning everything the hard way?" As the argument escalated, I realized something painful. I was no longer considered an equal member of the family. My parents had made major decisions without consulting me, from renovating my childhood bedroom into a home office, to planning a family vacation to Europe and not even telling me until after they had returned. I discovered this only when my aunt asked me if I had enjoyed Italy, confused by my complete ignorance of the trip. The final blow came when I was scrolling through my mother's social media account and noticed a family photo album titled "Our Pride and Joy," documenting Amanda's journey through medical school. There were dozens of photos of my parents with Amanda at white coat ceremonies, award dinners, and hospital events. I appeared in exactly 0 photos, despite having attended several family gatherings during that period. It was as if they were actively erasing me from the family narrative. Alone in my tiny apartment that night, I cried for the first time since I was a child. Not just tears of sadness, but of anger, frustration, and determination. I had never felt so alone, yet paradoxically, I had never felt so clear about my path forward. I would pour every ounce of my being into making Codecraft work, not just to prove my parents wrong, but to prove to myself that I could succeed on my own terms. 6 months passed, with minimal contact between me and my family. I threw myself into rebuilding Codecraft, learning from my previous failures. I narrowed my focus to specialized programming courses for professionals looking to transition into artificial intelligence and machine learning. 2 fields that were exploding in demand, but had limited high-quality educational resources. Then, on a crisp October morning, I received a text message from Amanda. "Mom and Dad are planning my medical school graduation party for May 15th. Save the date. They wanted me to tell you since you never answer their calls anymore." I had not missed any calls from them, but I chose not to point that out. Instead, I simply replied that I would be there. What Amanda and my parents did not know was that over the past 6 months, Codecraft had undergone a remarkable transformation. After my pivot to AI and machine learning education, the platform had caught the attention of several tech companies looking for training solutions for their employees. A major tech firm had signed a corporate contract worth $300,000, and 3 more were in final negotiations. Moreover, a venture capital firm specializing in educational technology had reached out after one of their partners took a course on my platform. They were impressed by the quality and specialized focus of the content, and after several meetings they had made an investment offer that valued Codecraft at $4.8 million. By the time Amanda's graduation party rolled around, I had closed a Series A funding round, secured corporate contracts totaling over $1.2 million in annual recurring revenue, and was in the process of hiring a team of 10 employees. But I had told no one in my family about any of this. I was saving it all for the perfect moment. The day of the party arrived and I pulled up to my parents' suburban home in an Uber, deliberately maintaining my appearance as the struggling entrepreneur they all expected. The house was decorated lavishly, with a large banner reading, "Congratulations, Dr. Amanda," stretched across the front entrance. At least 50 people milled about the backyard, many of them colleagues of my parents or Amanda's medical school friends. As I entered, I overheard my father talking to my uncle by the bar. "You know, James, we worried so much about Aurelius. He just never found his way like Amanda did. I think some people just are not cut out for success. At least we have one child who makes us proud." My mother spotted me and offered a perfunctory hug. "Aurelius, you came. And you are wearing a proper shirt, how nice. Amanda is over by the pool with her medical school friends. Very impressive people, all matched at top hospitals." Throughout the afternoon, I was introduced as Amanda's brother, often accompanied by uncomfortable pauses as my parents struggled to explain what I did for a living. "Hessen Computers," my father would say vaguely before quickly changing the subject. During dinner, speeches began. My father stood glass in hand and delivered a glowing tribute to Amanda, detailing her accomplishments from kindergarten through medical school. He ended with Amanda, "You have never once disappointed us. You are the embodiment of everything we hoped for in a child." My mother followed with her own emotional speech in which she told a story about how Amanda had always known she wanted to be a doctor even as a little girl. "You were always so determined, so focused, not distracted by silly trends or unrealistic ideas. Your father and I could not be more proud." Then, unexpectedly, my father called on me. "Aurelius, would you like to say something about your sister?" All eyes turned to me. I could see a mix of pity and curiosity on the faces of the guests, many of whom had heard whispers about the son who could not get his act together. My Uncle Jake, always tactless, after a few drinks called out from his table, "So, Aurelius, what are you up to these days? Still doing that website thing?" The awkward silence that followed was excruciating. My mother laughed nervously. "Aurelius is still finding his path," she said dismissively. My father added, "Not everyone can be as focused as Amanda. Some people take longer to accept reality." Amanda, basking in the attention, decided to join in. "Oh, come on, Dad. Without me, what would you and Mom have to brag about at parties?" She laughed and several guests joined in. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity how they viewed me not as a son or brother with a different path, but as a cautionary tale, a counterpoint to highlight Amanda's success. I felt a strange calm wash over me. This was indeed the perfect moment I had been waiting for. I stood up slowly, champagne glass in hand. Everyone turned to look at me, probably expecting an awkward, brief congratulation to my sister. Instead, I smiled confidently. "I would like to toast my sister Amanda," I began. "Congratulations on following the path that was laid out for you so perfectly. I am genuinely happy that you have found success in a field you love." I paused, taking a sip from my glass. "I also want to thank my parents and Amanda for something they may not realize they have given me. Their constant doubt, dismissal, and disappointment pushed me to work harder than I ever would have otherwise." The room grew uncomfortably quiet. While you all were writing me off as a failure, I was building something. That internet thing, as you all so dismissively called it, has just closed a Series A funding round valuing my company at nearly $5 million. Last month alone, we generated $1.2 million in revenue, and we are projecting to triple that by next year. My father's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. My mother's smile stiffened. Amanda's eyes widened in disbelief. "I would have loved to share this journey with my family, to have had your support during the hard times, to celebrate the small victories along the way. Instead, I had to find strength in your doubt. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a check, holding it up for everyone to see. I am donating $100,000 to establish a scholarship at Northwestern Medical School in the family name. I figured that would be a fitting way to celebrate both Amanda's achievement and my own. The silence in the room was absolute. My father's face had turned an interesting shade of red while my mother looked like she might faint. Amanda sat frozen, her moment of glory completely overshadowed. A distant cousin broke the silence with a low whistle. Hot damn, Aurelius. As if on cue, a local business reporter who had been invited because her father was a colleague of my dad approached me. Aurelius, I had no idea you were the founder of Codecraft. Our business desk has been trying to get an interview with you for weeks after your funding announcement made the industry news. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions for our Monday feature? I smiled politely. I would be happy to, Patricia. Perhaps we can step aside for a few minutes. As we walked away, I could feel every eye in the room following me. The whispers began immediately. I had not planned for a reporter to be there. It was pure serendipity, but I could not have scripted a better moment if I had tried. The interview lasted about 20 minutes, during which I spoke passionately about Codecraft's mission to democratize advanced technical education and our plans for expansion. When we returned to the party, the dynamic had completely shifted. Suddenly, relatives and family friends who had barely acknowledged me earlier were eager to speak with me, asking about my business and offering their belated congratulations. My parents approached cautiously, both looking somewhat shell-shocked. "Why did not you tell us?" my mother asked quietly. I looked at her directly. "Would you have believed me if I had?" Neither of them had an answer for that. It has been 2 years since that graduation party. I will not pretend that one dramatic revelation instantly healed all the wounds in our family. Real life does not work that way. But it did force a reckoning that was long overdue. My parents and I have slowly rebuilt our relationship. There were difficult conversations, tears, and eventually genuine apologies. They had been trapped in their own narrow vision of success, unable to see value in paths different from their own. I came to understand that their doubt came from fear and love, however misguided, not from a desire to hurt me. Amanda and I have developed a more authentic relationship as well. With the competitive dynamic imposed by our parents removed, we have discovered that we actually enjoy each other's company. She has even invested in Codecraft's latest funding round, a gesture that meant more to me than the money itself. As for me, I have found that the sweetest part of success is not proving others wrong. It is proving yourself right. I now mentor young entrepreneurs who face similar skepticism from their families or peers. I tell them what I wish someone had told me. The people who doubt you the loudest are often fighting their own fears about the road not taken. The greatest freedom I have found is not financial independence, though that certainly helps. It is the freedom from seeking external validation, from needing others to understand or approve of your vision. True success comes from staying true to yourself, even when no one else believes in you, especially those closest to you. Have you ever had to go against your family's expectations to follow your own path? Comment below with your story. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to forge their own path. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the people who believe in you the least motivate you the most.